Yet another fitness topic that has been talked to death over. Should you count your calories? The quick and easy answer to this is if you want to. Should this be the first thing you do in your fitness journey to achieving your goal? I don't think you have to start with this, but at some point down the line, when you fix all the other issues that are going on with your body and building healthy habits, and you should address those first, in the end, you're going to be just like everyone else who are trying to break into that single digit body fat. Eventually, there will be nothing left to do except to count your calories or move more. So, in the end, it's up to you. Being over 40, do you want to keep beating up your body and adding in more workouts, more running sessions, more movement? Or do you want to simply just start counting your calories and start making a few adjustments? So, if you want to hear my thoughts on this, stay tuned. Before I begin, I'd just like to point out that I just started a new Facebook group for over 40 fitness hacks, and I'll put the link in my show notes if you're interested. This is just a way I can connect with my community and see if people have any other questions that they'd like to hear episodes on, hear what other like-minded individuals are doing over 40, things people are trying, successes, failures, and also just for motivation purposes. Once again, I'll have that link in the show notes. Let's continue on with the episode. So I get this question asked all the time. How important is tracking calories? And I think it stems with the typical old school bodybuilder mentality of you got to count your protein, your macros, all your calories because it's calories in and expenditure of calories out. It's a simple math equation. That's the only way you're going to lose weight. And people have been driving that in the fitness industry for years. And there's absolutely some truth to it, but it's not the only way. And it also depends on what your goals are. Not everyone's looking to be an unhealthy 3% body fat that they see all these bodybuilders are at. And some feel that they're completely fine being in the mid-teens for body fat percentage. Well, you don't really need to track every single calorie you're putting in to get that. You just have to eat pretty healthy, move more, and then adjust accordingly. So then the other side of the coin are people who talk about you need to not count calories. It's just going to be a negative connotation. You're going to end up quitting it altogether. It's going to be too stressful to count that you should worry about other things. And that's fine. So either side, you should do it if it's important to you. And if it does stress you out, put it to the side for now. Either way, I think for someone just starting out who's over 40, they're sick of being overweight. They're sick of being unhealthy. And now's the time to start taking some action. I think the first thing is to do what I've been talking on my podcast for years, and that is kind of doing a scorecard of all the different aspects of fitness, which I like to put into 6 different buckets. And that's diet, working out or movement, inflammation, stress, whether it's physical or mental, sleep, which is super important for over 40, and supplements. Anything you're lacking in, now's the time to start thinking about supplements. So yes, counting calories is kind of part of that diet bucket, but working on all aspects of fitness, even just a little bit, is going to be better for you in the long run because you're building these healthy habits slowly, mastering each one before moving on to the next thing. So I think if counting calories is something you're into, you love MyFitnessPal, you've got all these trackers and you want to tell the trackers what kind of input of calories you're putting in, by all means do it. And in the end, if you want to get to, like I said, to that single digit body fat, if that is a personal goal of yours, you're going to have to do that at some point. And for the people on the other side who don't want to do that, they just want to work on eating healthier, non-processed, moving more, they're going to start losing weight drastically anyways. And all they're going to do in the end is, I still feel like I'm 5 to 10 pounds overweight. I'll start taking just a little bit more out of my diet and moving a little bit more on these days. And voila, they got to the same single digit body fat. But what did they do? They were basically taking out calories and doing a little bit of biohacking to see what works and what doesn't work. In their minds, they just don't want to see that number of tracking those calories, but they literally just did it by taking out. It's adding in or taking out. It's the same thing. So do what works for you. I think it's a great idea just to gauge if you really don't know what a plate of food, how many calories is in there, how much protein is in there, just to do it for a little bit, like MyFitnessPal or whatever tracker you like, And then if you have a food scale, weigh things a few times just to see, oh my God, this is what 6 ounces of chicken is, or beef or pork or whatnot. Then you kind of know how much protein's in there. This is something I still struggle with. Just today I had bought a package of 2 pork chops, and I'm thinking I need to eat both to get around 50, 60 grams of protein for what I want to have in one meal. And then I'm actually talking to Alexa and asking her how much is in each pork chop. And I was telling Alexa the weight, and it came back the combined two have a total of 130 grams of protein in it. I'm like, oh my God, I need to start looking at the weight and measuring my food. Now, had I not counted, just over time, you would know, okay, just eat a little bit less. I want to get a little bit leaner. It would start happening and you get the same result. But I think it doesn't take much time. And if you're really stressing about it, then just save it for the end. Like I said, those 6 different buckets, each one you're working on, you're scoring yourself. Pick a bucket and start working on something to score yourself a little higher in that bucket. Then move on to the last one. And diet may be the last thing in that bucket left to do is literally count calories. And at that point, you can decide to do it or not to do it. I mean, it's up to you. But what did you do by working on the things you wanted to work on? You started getting successes. You started feeling better. You started sleeping better. You're less bloated. All the different things that everyone that hates tracking calories and preaches don't do it at all, do all these other things. You should do all those other things. But just know tracking calories is just another little step that if you wanted to take just to hone in your game plan to getting to the goals that you want to get to. Just recently, I got myself a Whoop device for this 6-month challenge that I gave myself starting January of this year. And every month I've been given an update of what I've been working on. And we're not quite at the end of May, and I'll do my whole review of the Whoop device for sleep and all the other things it does. But one of the cool things that it shows you is per your heart rate, per your stress levels, your oxygen levels, your body temp, while you're doing exercise and while you're not, and the stats you give it, obviously your weight, your height, and all that. It gives you a pretty accurate reading of what your BMR is, which is basically your metabolic burn rate. How many calories are you burning in that day? And then you can see, if you're counting calories, how close you are to being under that amount if you're trying to lose weight. And what the cool thing is, on different days, depending on your sleep and your recovery and how much strain they call it, but which is movement or working out that you did that day, you might actually go up in that value of your metabolic rate, your BMR, or less. And if you're really into biohacking and tracking all this stuff, you could be watching this daily and adjusting your meals, most likely dinner, to compensate for that. If you had a great movement day, great rest day, and your BMR is really high, like mine is right around 2100. Sometimes I get up to 2400. That's an extra 300 calories. Well, for dinner, I can have a few more snacks. And if I didn't do so well, had terrible sleep, I didn't move that much, it'll give me a lower number, like almost like 1900. Well, I need to cut my dinner in half. And that is some valuable information. And has been really rock star for me this month of getting back on track to where I want to be by July 4th. That's kind of my 6 months plus a few days of my 6 months challenge. So take that for what it's worth. Do what feels good to you. Start tracking whatever you want to start tracking. Just as long as you're staying interested, you're staying motivated, getting excited about being healthier and looking and feeling better. That's the best thing about being over 40. And one day you're going to get to that point where like, holy crap, I am basically back in my 20s or my late 20s. I'll never say early 20s. That'll never happen again. So get that out of your mind right now. Anyways, I'll leave it at that. Can't wait to do a whole review on the Swoop device and all the different aspects of it. I've got one more month to go on my challenge, and I'm very confident that by July 4th, I'll be right where I want to be, 8 or 9% body fat. Anyways, thanks for listening. And as always, in the show notes, I have a link to a free Zoom consultation just to hear some of your problems you're having, see if I can't point you in the right direction. Thanks for listening, and I'll catch you on the next one. If you've been listening to my podcast for a while, you know that I've moved down here to San Diego, and I'm actually going to be training at one of my local gyms. So in this process, you got to do the Yelp and Google reviews to get some action going. And what I'd like to do is ask my audience if anyone out there would be so gracious enough to leave me a 5-star Google review to help build my local training clients. If you love the show or have had any results from listening, please click on the show notes for my link to get to these Google reviews as it is hard even to find me by searching for over 40 fitness hacks on Google Maps currently. Thank you once again, and I hope you love the show. If you'd like a little bit of help checking out your diet and your current routine, I'd be happy to help. I always do a free 15-minute Zoom consultation for anyone, no strings attached, just to see if I can help point you in the right direction. So if you're interested, check out the show notes. The link is at the top.